Hello everyone, I'm here today to show you how to make a sponge holder for your kitchen. The things you are going to need for today are going to be a scratch tool, a wood tool, a sponge, and you are going to also need a cylinder that you have thrown on the wheel. I also have the sponge that I am hoping will eventually be the size that goes in my finished sponge holder. So the first thing I'm gonna do, because this cylinder is not trimmed, I didn't trim it on the wheel, I just gave it a little cut, but I wanna get rid of this ledge, this extra gunk that's down at the bottom. The way that I do that is I just take my cylinder, I hold it on both sides of the hands, and I compress the little hip area in by rotating it on my table surface. And we can see that takes some of that extra clay and just presses it into the surface. After it's a little stiffer, I could use a rib or another tool and I could smooth that out even more. All right, my next step is going to be to create the little cuts that go directly across my sponge holder. What you're gonna do is you wanna avoid this bottom section about the width of your thumb because that's the floor of your vessel, so we don't want to cut there. Now before I cut anything, I just use my wood tool and I'm gonna make a vertical line up and another vertical line up. And I want this to be a U shape. Now before I cut this, I want to make sure that U is slightly wider than my sponge, and it is. That extra width is nice so that way it slides in easy, and plus our clay is going to shrink. So we want to make sure that we make up for that by cutting our negative space a little bit bigger. Okay, my next step is I'm going to cut through. So I'm going to line up my scratch tool, and then I'm going to make one even cut all the way down. And then you can take your scratch tool out and you can cut, or you can just turn it slightly. I actually turn my pot. That helps me to create a nice even curve. And then now my pot is upside down and I'm gonna make a straight cut. And I slow down and gently press into my thumb. And I've cut my negative space where my sponge can rest. I want to make sure I keep this cutout intact, that I don't actually destroy this, because it's going to be my stencil for the other side, because I want to make sure that they are lined up and the same. So to get this directly across, you could use your rib to reach across, you could use a ruler. I'm just going to use my scratch tool and make a mark. That's going to be the top. And here's my other top. Rotate, line this up here. And then I'm going to trace around my cutout. Okay, just set my little cutout aside, and then I'm going to repeat my steps. I'm just going to cut straight through and curve up and around. So now I have my two sides, everything's cut out, but I still have all these little goops that I don't want there, and I want to make sure these edges are nice and smooth, they're compressed, nothing sharp. So this is where my sponge comes into handy. I'm just going to run it over those cut marks, maybe my finger, and I'll do this to both sides, making sure it's nice and smooth, no sharp edges. So we have our sponge holder. That is how you make your cuts. Please make sure you sign the bottom of your work. If you would like to view one of the surface techniques, you are just gonna go check out another video.